Eric Chen and I have been together since college. 8 full years. I used my connections and my family's resources to lift him from a penniless nobody to the vice chair of Sloan Group. Everyone envied us, certain our bond was unbreakable. Then one of his juniors stole my design and used it to secure an offer from a top university overseas. I filed a formal complaint without mercy. Eric suddenly blew up at me, demanding, "Do you really have to ruin her? She's not like you, born with everything. Do you know how hard she worked to get here?" Watching his face flush on behalf of a thief, I found it laughable. He wanted to play savior? Fine, then I'd break his bones first, drag him off that pedestal, and make him see what he really was, kneeling on the ground. When I returned from an overseas business trip, I went straight from the plane to the office to clear the backlog. As I entered, a young, green-looking girl sat in the executive assistant's chair outside my office, a ring of people around her, and waves of deliberate flattery drifting over. "Zoe's so young and already has an offer from a world-class university. Her future's limitless." Who knew Zoe was this capable? We really shouldn't have underestimated her. "When you're flying high, Zoe, don't forget us. Mr. Chen thinks so highly of you, he's clearly grooming you." I paused, letting my gaze cut through the crowd. The girl's pride and smugness were undisguised. She was unfamiliar. I had never seen her in the company. Eric stood beside her, smiling with indulgence. When he noticed me, his smile froze for a moment, then returned to normal. "Cece, you're back," he said, and took the initiative to introduce us. "Let me introduce you. This is Zoe Dong, a relative from my hometown and our junior from A University." He paused, pride practically overflowing. "Zoe is exceptionally capable. She just got an offer from M University. She'll train with us for a few months and then head out." I looked over at the girl named Zoe Dong. She finally bothered to lift her eyelids toward me. With her round face and clear eyes, she showed not a shred of respect for a superior, only cool hauteur and arrogance. No matter how gifted an intern is, how does she simply get to sit in the executive assistant's seat? I flicked Eric a calm, questioning look. He acted as if he hadn't noticed. Zoe checked the time on the computer and said to him, with easy familiarity, "Eric, your business interview is about to start. Let's go together." Eric smiled and agreed, motioning for her to join him. The interview took place in the lounge of the CEO's office. I followed. Under the live camera, Eric was in high spirits, speaking fluently. The host tossed out questions from time to time, eyes shining with just the right amount of admiration. "Mr. Chen, you rose from a humble background to become the vice chair of Sloan Group, practically a legend. In the hardest days at the beginning, what kept you going? Is there a particular benefactor you'd like to thank?" Facing the camera, Eric smiled with stirring enthusiasm. "I wouldn't call it legendary, but I firmly believe that beating the odds isn't about luck. It's about vision, audacity, and the grit to never give up. Back then, I took a stand and chose the algorithm's track, something no one believed in at the time, and I staked almost everything I had. There were countless sleepless nights and crushing pressure." He put on a modest smile. "In the end, my judgment proved right. Opportunity always favors those who are prepared and willing to fight." From start to finish, he never mentioned my technical support or my family's connections, nor that the core patent behind that supposedly unpopular algorithm's track actually belongs to me. Zoe, eyes full of worship, held Eric's phone to snap photos and record. The way she unlocked it was far too smooth and natural. The passcode was clearly not the one I'd set for him. I tilted my head and quietly told my assistant to pull everything we had on Zoe Dong as soon as possible. Eric Chen and I had been together since college, a full 8 years. Back then, he was a poor student at a university on a need-based scholarship, wearing washed thin cotton t-shirts and chewing on steamed buns that cost only a few cents. I first noticed him in a core class, when an elderly professor put forward an outdated technical view. The whole room went silent. No one wanted to contradict him in public. Only Eric stood up. His voice wasn't loud, but it was unusually firm as he clearly pointed out the flaws in the professor's argument. In that moment, his eyes shone with a pure love for technology and a stubborn devotion to truth, clean, with no impurities at all. Our classmates thought he didn't know his place. I, however, saw in him the rarest thing in my world: purity. As the heir to Sloan Group, I'd grown up where profit came first, surrounded by rich boys with backgrounds like mine. Polite, yes, but also arrogant and hollow. Their topics never strayed from family businesses, the newest sports cars, and boring parties. I was exhausted by a life with price tags on everything and suffocated by the shaded path my father had paved for me. Eric's purity stirred a feeling I hadn't had in a long time, and it sparked an idealistic impulse in me to make gold shine. I personally invited him to join my project team and shared every resource with him, freely. At the celebration for a prize we'd won, a few rich kids surrounded him, their words dripping with mockery. "Well, if it isn't the small-town grind," one sneered. "How does it feel to get into the circle on Miss Sloane's coattails?" Eric clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. His eyes were stubborn, but he stayed silent. I walked over with a glass of wine and cut in. His code solved the project's most critical problem, unlike some people who are good at nothing except being born lucky. The crowd gradually dispersed. He looked at me and murmured, "Thanks. You didn't have to." I caught the flash of humiliation in his eyes, leaned to his ear, and said, "I'm not helping you, Eric. I like you." After a full project cycle of watching him up close, I chose Eric as my best candidate to resist the family marriage alliance. What could be more reliable than supporting someone of my own choosing? In Eric's eyes there was surprise, but also hesitation and inferiority. He said, "Cece, I'm not worthy of you." I smiled and told him, "It's enough that I like you." My father was furious about our relationship. He scolded me, "Cece, you're being foolish. He's a poor boy from a small town, still unformed. What he wants isn't you, it's the Sloan family's resources." Even my best friends tried to persuade me. "Cece, are you sure? Is defying your family for him really worth it?" "Worth it," I said. My certainty didn't come from believing in Eric, it came from believing in myself. I believed I could win and take control of my own marriage. For this battle, I moved out of a 5,000 square foot villa into a rental of less than 300 square feet. My fingers had never touched dishwater, and the first time I cooked, I nearly burned down the kitchen. Staring at the mess, Eric didn't laugh at me. He just hugged me from behind, amusement in his voice. "I'll handle it from now on." In that moment, looking at the old residential blocks outside the window and breathing in the faint soap scent on him, I felt for the first time that a life stripped of the Sloan halo could still be warm. What started as a calculated relationship slowly grew into something real. By day we fought in our respective arenas. By night we shared the light of a single desk lamp at a tiny table. I taught him, hand over hand, how to write business plans and coached him on the rules of my social class. With each step he took forward, I felt genuinely proud. In the end, when I led a team to use a brand new algorithmic model to snatch a crucial mega project out from under Sloan Group, my father finally relented. He leaned back in his chair exhausted and sighed helplessly. "All right, you've grown up. You can decide your own marriage." I smiled, bright and unrestrained. That was the first time I'd ever taken control of my own life. 2 years into dating Eric Chen, I finally met his family. Before that, he never mentioned them. Only when I met his mother and younger brother did I understand why. In a private room at a 5-star hotel, his mother wore an ill-fitting cheap suit and the moment she sat down, started interrogating me about my family's assets. His younger brother, still in middle school, imitated adults by smoking, and he nitpicked the expensive menu like a connoisseur. I kept a polite smile the whole time, but inside, revulsion rose and crashed like waves. Instinctively, I looked at Eric. He sat across from me with his head lowered. In that moment, all my resentment melted into pity. So this was the environment he had struggled and clawed his way out of. No wonder he was that sensitive, that desperate, that hungry for success. Because of that, I lifted him even more selflessly. Eric entered Sloan Group smoothly and started at a management level. His title quickly lengthened from Mr. Chen to Director Chen. But at some point, he began to change. He stopped saying thank you and instead said, "I know." He stopped discussing things with me and started issuing notices. The way he looked at me shifted from reliance and gratitude to scrutiny, fault-finding, even a kind of peer-to-peer arrogance. I can accept that a man's personality changes as his status rises. No one stays the same forever. If Eric became confident, even arrogant, that was human nature. As long as he didn't cross a line, I could treat it as the normal wear and tear of managing a marriage. After all, the cost of cultivating a qualified husband is high. But my hyper-efficient secretary soon laid evidence of a line crossing right in front of me. There were 2 files on the desk. The first contained Zoe Dong's background, photos of Eric and Zoe kissing in a parking garage, and the details of a property Eric purchased for her. The second showed a screenshot of Zoe's offer from a top overseas university and the graduation project she'd submitted as an attachment. When I saw that familiar design, something unruly surged in my blood. It was the concept I had created 2 years ago for the first iteration of the new fusion program. It was too bold, too far ahead of its time. Under the technical constraints back then, neither stability nor cost could be controlled, so I personally killed it and archived it. Only Eric and I had access to it in the highest permission core repository. I remembered how many all-nighters I pulled for that architecture, how many cups of coffee I drank, how many drafts I scrapped, and the relief that washed over me when inspiration finally struck and I drew the complete logic on the whiteboard. It was my sweat and blood. And now it had become Eric's gift to another woman, his stepping stone to help her into a prestigious school. I've seen too many wealthy couples acting loving in public while living separate farces in private, and I once naively believed Eric would be different. I hadn't expected fate to catch me too. I gave a bitter little laugh. Instead of wallowing, better to cut my losses. Since Eric no longer deserved to be my husband, everything I had given him should be taken back, one piece at a time. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and when I opened them, only cold stillness remained. I opened my laptop and drafted a new email. In the subject line, I typed, word by word, real name report on academic misconduct by your admitted student, Zoe Dong. After handling that, I went home early. I was just thinking about where I should move when the doorbell rang. The moment I opened the door, I frowned. My mother-in-law and Eric's younger brother, Jason Chen, stood there with armfuls of bags, and Zoe Dong was right behind them. The big shot is finally home, huh? My mother-in-law said the instant she saw me. My mother-in-law started ordering Jason Chen to haul the luggage inside like no one else existed. Jason and I are moving in from now on, she announced. A family should live together. I stood in the doorway without budging. My tone was cold. Didn't I just buy you a fully paid 3-bedroom last month? That's too far, she shot back. Besides, I want to live with my son. Her voice rose immediately. We came all this way to see you, and you, as a daughter-in-law, won't even let us in the door? Zoe Dong chimed in. Sister-in-law, that's on you. I cut her off, icy. Who are you calling sister-in-law? Color rushed to Zoe's face and she was about to argue when Eric Chen came home. Taking in the standoff, he scolded me without asking questions. Cece, they're my family. Can't you be a little polite? Polite? I gave a short laugh. Ask whether they deserve it. It was he who once clutched me in the middle of the night, hating his original family, and he who set the rule banning them from ever stepping into this apartment again, because his brother, already 20, had urinated in the community's ornamental lake, and his mother had stolen a package from a neighbor's doorstep and gotten the property office involved. All that phony posturing humiliated him. Yet now, in front of Zoe, he couldn't wait to play the good man covering for his family's mess. My words were a needle, puncturing his act with precision. Eric's face went bright and pale by turns before he forced out a thin, cold smile. To his wailing mother and to Jason, he said, "We're leaving." My mother-in-law froze. Leave? Go where? Afraid we won't find a place? Eric's voice wasn't loud, but it carried a gritted ferocity. He grabbed a duffel from the floor with one hand and Zoe with the other. Zoe, let's go. We'll head to your place first. At the technical meeting early the next morning, Eric showed up with 2 massive dark circles under his eyes. It was obvious he hadn't slept. The project lead reported the latest progress on the Skydome program's training logic. Eric nodded his approval, then glanced toward the back row where Zoe sat. Zoe, you've just been exposed to the core. Tell us what you think. A newcomer's perspective can be valuable. In an instant, every engineer's expression shifted, subtle and complicated. Flustered by the attention, Zoe flipped through her notes and stammered. I think the director's points are great. It's just, maybe the validation logic could be simplified a bit more. The comment was completely unhelpful. I frowned and spoke up, pointing directly to the issue. That validation module is already the stripped-down version. How exactly do you propose simplifying it further? The moment the words left my mouth, Eric's face darkened. He cut me off, voice laced with a deliberate, performative authority. Cease, you haven't been deep in first-line code for a while. Tech iterates fast now. You need to keep up with the times. Then, in a show of leadership, he turned to the room. Skydome's architecture is brand new. Its underlying logic is completely different. Zoe may lack experience, but her idea of simplifying reflects the mindset of a new generation of engineers. Excellent. Team members traded looks. The tech director looked like he wanted to speak, but didn't. I doubted anyone understood what that string of empty words was supposed to mean. The mindset of a new generation of engineers. The only one basking in protection was Zoe, her lips curved in worship as she gazed at Eric. But her smile didn't last. Near dusk, an email from M University formally hit Zoe's inbox. Her offer was rescinded. Their academic integrity committee moved quickly, just 2 business days to investigate and decide. Staring at her screen, Zoe went sheet white, then burst into sobs and ran out of the office. Eric chased after her, then quickly doubled back and looked at his computer. The email from M University not only contained the notice rescinding the offer, but also attached the reported materials as evidence, complete with an appeal link for Zoe. If she could prove she was the original creator, the offer could be reinstated. But Zoe knew perfectly well there was no chance of that ever happening. Eric was shaking with anger. He shoved open my office door and blasted me. Cece, do you have to destroy her? She's not like you, born with everything. Do you know how hard she's worked to get here? I honestly didn't understand. Worked? Worked at what? Since when is plagiarizing someone else's core code considered hard work? Eyes bloodshot, he argued. Yes, I was the one who gave her that plan, but so what? Isn't that the plan you killed a long time ago? If you weren't going to use it, why can't someone else? A plan you didn't want helped a young person with a dream. What's wrong with that? Is your vision really that small, Cece? I actually laughed at the bandit logic. Eric, you've got one thing wrong. Something I discard, I can feed to the dog or I can destroy, but it's not your turn to reach into my trash and fish something out to curry favor with another woman. I paused. Only you and I have access to the core repository. You stole my code for her. Tell me, who's the one working hard here? Her or you? He was struck dumb, fury roiling in him when he realized he couldn't win on logic, so he switched to moral blackmail. Cease, you already have everything. Why are you quibbling with a young girl like her? Can't you just let this go? I looked at him with real interest. Sure, I'll let it go. First tell me what you are to her. Why are you going this far for an outsider? Eric's eyes darted, his words tripping over themselves. I'm just mentoring her purely. There's nothing else. You're the one being vicious. Seeing I wasn't moved, his tone softened. Email the school now. Withdraw your complaint. I'm begging you, okay? Cease, you don't understand. Zoe is so much like me back then, struggling in the corner of the library. She's a flower I've watered with my own hands. M University is the dream she's realizing for me. And suddenly I understood. Eric had always wanted to go abroad, but never managed it because of work and money. It was the deepest regret in his heart. He wanted to use Zoe to fulfill the dream he couldn't achieve himself. But why should he use my diamonds to build another woman a staircase to her fantasy? I smiled. Is that so? She's like the old you? Eric, don't forget, you're also a flower I raised with my own hands. The sentence cracked across his face like a slap. Enraged and humiliated, he snapped, Cece, I succeeded on my talent and hard work. I'm gold. I'll shine wherever I go. I tilted my head, amused. You're not gold, Eric. I'm the one who turns stone into gold. You think too highly of yourself, he hissed, eyes burning with a kind of madness, as if he could devour me. Just you wait. The Skydome program will succeed. Then I'll make you and everyone at Sloan Group see exactly who's supporting whom. He stepped forward, voice hoarse with excitement, and declared, word by word, it's me, Eric Chen. Without me, none of you would be anything. After that day, Eric moved out and threw himself into the Skydome program. As if just to spite me, he insisted on keeping Zoe Dong at Sloan, though she should have been too ashamed to stay, and even installed her as a lead on Skydome. She leapfrogged over veterans from top schools with years of experience. The engineers across the tech division were furious. Before long, someone couldn't hold it in and came to me, complaining that team morale had cratered and the project couldn't move forward. I made no public comment. The next day, I convened a closed-door meeting with all director-level managers and announced 3 things. First, due to personnel upheaval, Skydome's risk level was elevated, and the group would reassess resource allocation. Second, to respond to market shifts, the group would launch a top-secret fallback initiative, the Starstream program, as a strategic alternative. Third, and most important, I told every director that Sloan Group respects each employee's career choices. If anyone wished to transfer for personal reasons, no department was to obstruct them. HR would make proper arrangements. Within 3 days of the meeting, several core technical pillars from Skydome submitted their resignations. I had already paved their next road. I asked my assistant to bring them to the offices of another subsidiary under my name. Without extra chatter, I slid a plan across the table. It was the project I had once killed, but after 2 years of quiet work and refinement, the Starstream program was now mature. Our tech director, Frank Zhang, slapped the table first. Face flushed with excitement, "Miss Song, this is what we've been wanting to build. Say the word, we'll grind ourselves to the bone to deliver." "That's right, following you actually feels like work that matters," another said. Looking at these top-tier engineers, I smiled and lifted my teacup. Welcome home. As the core talent bled away one by one, Eric didn't care at first. He even saw it as a chance to clean house, to wash out those he deemed disloyal and promote obedient newcomers like Zoe. After all, he considered himself the company's greatest technical genius, the irreplaceable soul of Skydome. But he soon realized how wildly wrong he was. He had underestimated the monstrous engineering load of a nationwide scale product. This wasn't a solo a genius could finish. It was a symphony requiring top architects, algorithm engineers, QA, and operations working in concert. After half the team left, red lights began flashing everywhere in the system. Those who remained were either out of their depth or listlessly going through the motions. From her high perch, Zoe contributed little beyond spawning new bugs. Eric had no choice but to dive in himself, patching code day and night. Right when he was drowning in fires, Jason Chen showed up downstairs at the company and made a scene. By the time Eric went down, a crowd of employees were already filming, eyes eager for drama. "Bro, I lost 20 million gambling," Jason blurted. "They said if I don't pay in 3 days, I'm dead." Seeing Eric, he acted like he'd found his savior. "You can't just watch me die." Eric kept a lid on his temper, forcing the words through his teeth. "Didn't I tell you not to come to the company again? Why are you here?" "You're my brother. If I don't come to you, who do I go to?" Jason said, self-righteous. "We're blood. If you won't help, I'll go find my sister-in-law. I'll see if he has any shame. Let the whole company know her husband won't even help his own brother live." Bastard. Eric couldn't hold back. He slapped Jason across the face. "Didn't I warn you to stop gambling?" Just then, my mother-in-law, who'd been told to come to Sloane's entrance to pick up her younger son, arrived and ran right into the scene. She lunged forward like a madwoman, wailing, "Heartless, he's your own brother. Are you just gonna watch him die? You've forgotten how hard things were at home back then. Who saved food so you could study? Now that you've made it, you don't care if your brother lives or dies." My brother-in-law's wailing, my mother-in-law's curses, my colleagues' probing stares and silent snickers, all of it wove into an invisible net that pinned Eric Chen in the center, choking him. He'd fought for more than 20 years to pull on the glossy skin of an upper-class man, and in an instant his own bloodkin tore it to shreds in public, exposing the small-town, impoverished, shabby self beneath. He called for security. No one answered, until I'd seen enough of the spectacle and waved a hand. Only then did the guards step in to clear the crowd. Ever since the day I learned Eric had betrayed me, I'd already set this little play for his family in motion. Jason had a drug habit to begin with. I merely had someone invite him out to Oak City for a spree. I hadn't expected him to burn through 20 million in a few days. I knew Eric had warned Jason not to come to the company, so I had the debt collectors dump him right at Sloan Group's front door. As for my mother-in-law arriving at just the right moment, of course I had someone notify her. Right then, the Skydome accounts held, not more, not less, a tidy 20 million. Before final audit, there's a window when funds can be moved. I know Eric too well. Growing up in that kind of family, he hated his mother's greed and his brother's shamelessness, yet deep down he was shackled by filial piety, the creed that success demands paying parents back. So he could only loathe and provide, resent and protect, all at once. That suffocating contradiction strangled him constantly. I also knew he didn't have much cash on hand. Most of his money was locked in long-term bonds, and the liquid funds had gone last month to buy Zoe a Riverview luxury condo. And Eric did not disappoint me. The next morning, my assistant placed a report on my desk. Eric had privately diverted company funds. After the 20 million landed in the collector's account, he went home and beat Jason, dragged himself back to the office. But when he pushed open the project room door, a young engineer, face drained of color, pointed at the main screen, voice shaking. "Director Chen, the system crashed." Eric's heart dropped. He rushed over, eyes locked on the fatal error trace. It was an embarrassingly basic logic bug. "What's going on? Who approved this code?" he snapped, spinning on the team. Every gaze slid, silent and accusing, toward the corner where Zoe Dong had already gone slack with shock. Eric understood. He wheeled on her, roaring, "Useless. I made you the lead and you blow a hole this big? You can't even handle something this small. What can you do? Cry? All day long, all you do is cry. Besides crying, what else can you do?" In the dead quiet that followed, Eric suddenly thought of me, of how I'd flagged this plan's risk in a meeting, of the calm, surgical way I handled problems like this. If I were here, a rookie mistake like this would never have happened. One after another, my past good points flashed through his mind, and he realized that if I were willing to help, this wouldn't be nearly so humiliating. Agitated, he raked a hand through his hair, went into his office, and called me. When Eric's call came in, I was at a get-together with colleagues from the project division. "Cece, where are you?" he asked over the line. "I really need you. Can we meet?" Before I could answer, Frank Zhang, the former Skydome project manager Eric had personally fired, staggered past me half-drunk, glass in hand, and slurred. "Miss Song, our Starstream launch goes live tomorrow. A toast to you." The line went dead still. A few seconds later, Eric's voice came back rough with disbelief and anger. "Frank is with you?" "Cece, how is he on your team?" Eric demanded. I was in a great mood and answered lightly, "On my Starstream program. I brought Frank Zhang over myself. Any problem with that?" "Starstream," Eric muttered, incredulous. "Didn't you abandon that plan long ago?" I had him on speaker. Engineers who'd long been dissatisfied with Eric thumped their chests theatrically on this end. "With us here, Starstream can be revived." "Oh, Starstream's positioning is the same as Skydome's," someone added. Eric's voice rose angrier by the second. "You poached them all. Cease, you stole my project. You stole my hard work." "Oh no, I countered, airy. "Let's use your own words, Eric. Weren't those engineers the ones you personally washed out for being disloyal? And wasn't that code the plan you killed off as outdated?" I mimicked the tone he'd used to scold me before and handed his line back verbatim. "Using something nobody wanted to help a group of engineers with dreams? What's wrong with that? Eric, is your vision really that small?" "That's different," he shouted, completely losing control. "That's my work, my intellectual property." "Intellectual property?" I feigned surprise, my voice cool with sarcasm. "Eric, do you even understand the law? Everything I've done is fully legal and compliant." I hung up. The restaurant's chatter washed back over me, and a small sadness pricked at me. I'd had an elite education since childhood. Law, options, stocks, funds, and trusts were the basic rules that kept my world running. Eric's schooling had taught him how to solve math problems and write elegant code. The reason Eric achieved so much in 8 years was that while he focused on technology, I handled his personnel disputes and team building. While he buried himself in R&D, I connected capital and smoothed the press. When he bought pricey equipment in the name of cutting-edge tech, I designed the company's equity, balanced the board's interests, and calculated ROI. And then he credited it all to himself, because he was gold. In truth, Any man as bright as Eric, once placed on the stage I built, could have been lifted to the same height. As long as I have money, the ground is littered with gold to choose from. Eric was never irreplaceable. He was simply the one I happened to choose. On the day Starstream launched, my attorney delivered 2 documents to Eric, a divorce agreement and a formal complaint from the company accusing him of embezzlement. The evidence of his affair was also sent to him, just to make clear there was no point in struggling. The building manager told me Eric had gone back to our apartment once. When he found I'd moved out, he threw a fit at the empty living room. I imagine Zoe must have been panicking too. Every penny Eric spent on her was marital property belonging to both of us. And by law, I would recover every cent. But I had no time to concern myself with that ill-fated pair. A hall full of reporters and investors were waiting for me to take the stage. Then a commotion exploded at the entrance. Eric forced his way into the venue and was stopped by security. "Sir, your invitation, please." He snapped. "I'm the vice chair of Sloan Group." The guard checked the list and gave a chilly smile. "Sorry, the system shows you aren't anymore." Just then, Jason Chen, who hadn't been able to reach Eric, caught him as he was trying to get inside. "Bro, money. Give me money. I'm down another 20 million. Already teetering from the lawsuit and his imploding career, Eric barked. "Didn't you promise me you wouldn't gamble again?" Eric shoved Jason away. "Get out. I don't have money. I don't have a single cent." "Liar." Jason burned with rage. "What kind of human are you? I'm your brother. Are you gonna watch me die? You just bought Zoe a big place. Think I don't know? And now you're telling me you're broke?" "Shut up." Eric, pushed to the edge by the final humiliation, lowered his voice, hard as a blade. "You're useless. Besides gambling and dragging me down, what else can you do? Get out. Get out." Jason's reason snapped. "Fine. If you won't help me, who will? If I can't live, you don't get to either." In a surge of despair and hatred, he grabbed a decorative vase and smashed it toward Eric's head. Eric staggered, then crashed to the floor. Still not satisfied, Jason kept the vase raised and moved as if to attack random people nearby. My assistant rushed to me. "Miss Song, something's happened. Should we step in? Cancel the launch?" I watched the security feed. Reporters were already swarming like sharks scenting blood, a wall of flashbulbs exploding. I shook my head, calm. "No, run the launch as planned." When she hesitated, I added, "Point every camera at the stage. Tonight's Starstream event is going to be one for the books." And it was exactly as I expected. Eric delivered me a tidal wave of traffic. Under a storm of stunned, sympathetic, ravenous eyes, I walked onto the stage in a white suit and with the most precise, compelling language, unveiled Starstream's scale and its technological disruption to the world. When that brilliant digital galaxy ran flawlessly across the giant screen, the room went dead silent, then erupted into thunder. That night, the tech world went wild for Starstream's breakthroughs, and the entire internet, buzzing with scandal and gossip, watched Sloan's stock rocket to new highs. A few days later, Eric was out of danger and had regained partial consciousness. To preserve appearances before the press, I made a perfunctory trip to the hospital. When he saw me, his eyes lit up and he forced the words out. "Cece." I stood by the bed, looking down at him. "Now do you know whether you're gold or just a stone?" He started coughing violently, tears mixing with saliva at the corner of his mouth. "Cece, I regret it. I never actually liked Zoe. I liked how she worshipped me. It made me feel like a real man. I'll cut it off with her, completely. From now on, I'll listen to you. Let's just live well. Okay? Like a real man." I let out a short laugh. "What do you think a real man is, exactly? Is it embezzling money earned on the platform I gave you to buy cars and a condo for another woman? Is it betraying the woman who fought by your side for 8 years and pulled you out of the mud with her own hands? Or is it stealing my work to pay for your cheap pity and vanity? Which of those is a real man?" Eric had no answer. Color drained from his face. Looking at him, I realized for the first time without the filter of love just how ugly he was to me. "I'm a clean freak," I said. "I don't like others touching what I've used, but more important than that." I paused, then delivered the sentence as calmly as a verdict. "I don't keep disloyal dogs. People who are disloyal don't get second chances." Eric Chen was sentenced to 10 years for embezzlement. Jason Chen, for endangering public safety, was about to be prosecuted. See? To drag a normal family under, one rabid dog is enough. As for my mother-in-law, after finding out that both her sons were headed to prison, my mother-in-law wailed and tried to reach me, but she had no way to get to me. She could only go to Zoe Dong, hoping to claw back the things Eric had given her. The two women brawled in the rental apartment. Zoe's face was slashed by my mother-in-law's nails. My mother-in-law was shoved down the stairs by Zoe and died on the spot. Zoe went to prison for intentional homicide. 6 months later, Sloan Group partnered with the state prison on a charity program. I attended as the project lead, and while I was there, went to see Eric. Across the visitation glass, he wore a gray prison uniform, his hair shaved down to stubble. All his former swagger was gone, replaced by defeat and premature wear. He'd grown gaunt, his eyes empty, like a shell from which the soul had been pulled. I'd heard that, when he couldn't keep paying hospital fees, he was discharged in a hurry and left with complications. His body still convulsed from time to time. "Cece," Eric said evenly, "you might as well have just killed me back then." "Death would have been too cheap for you," I replied, pressing the latest finance magazine against the glass. I was on the cover. The headline read, "Tech Queen Cece Song After Starstream, Building the Galaxy." His gaze locked on the magazine. His whole body began to shake, and then he covered his face and wept. What was he crying for? Oh, maybe he was mourning what he once thought should have been his. A year later, at the Starstream Phase 2 celebration, we gathered on the terrace of a seaside villa. The champagne tower threw off cascades of light. Frank Zhang stood beside me with the core team who had followed me since the Skydome days. "Miss Song, cheers," Frank said, raising his glass, his face flushed with pride. "Our new project's user numbers just broke another record." Everyone lifted their glasses, their faces bright with a pure passion for technology and boundless hope for the future. I smiled, clinked with them, and took a sip of champagne. The night breeze lifted my hair. In the distance, the city lights looked like stars falling into the sea. My life had never felt so wide, so bright, so free. As for Eric, he was only a stepping stone I'd trod over in a very long life.